Welcome back. I'm in the studio with DA Federal Leader Mmusi Maimane, and I got a sense from you, Dr. Maimane, earlier on that you will be focusing largely on the urban areas, the metros, right? I got that sense. But then, what else are you doing? Let me make this statement first. I mean, the minority groups in South Africa, many of them are likely to support the DA. I think your challenge is likely to be in the black community. What is the message that you are taking there, and what is contained in your manifesto that you think address the unique expectations and aspirations of the black community?
But Tim, our project has always been about building one South Africa for all. And I think the first crucial offer is that you've got to build a party that is diverse. You know, the beauty of South Africans, both black and white, is that they actually want to work together. Those are the South Africans we want to deal with. Because ultimately, in the DA, I don't want a South African who refuses to work with another race. Whether that person is black or that person is white, it is unacceptable. I don't deal with racists. I don't want them in the organization. I want citizens that are committed to working together. That's the country we've got to build. Secondly, we've gone ahead and said the economy is a central issue. It bears the interest of all. The townships have become dormitories of unemployment. Youth unemployment is a crucial question. So one of the things that we've gone for is to say, how do we put a job in every home? That's our organizing principle in that regard. It focuses on how we stimulate legitimate black business so that we can stimulate micro-enterprise by using cities. And already in our governance infrastructure, we're showing we've put up Kumbuka centers where businesses can come and register, get business, so that they can create the requisite jobs. We further on say, how do we look at broad industries? So how do we make it easier for people to gain access into South Africa? I think Gauteng has already got a number of airports that we can use as not only logistics hubs, but a place where tourism can thrive in this province. We can stimulate manufacturing. We can ensure the fact that we give the appropriate incentives for people to be able to create work. Thirdly, I think that especially around young people, we want to give young people a year's program that they can intern within the state, both public and in the private sector, and we will be able to compensate them over the 2 years so that to restore the dignity of someone being able to go to work. I think the longer as I've been going from Kasi to Kasi, people are asking me, they're saying, Mmusi, we can't allow our kids to become pensioners. They finished at university and they become pensioners because they come and retire here at home with us. Unacceptable. I want young people to be able to get that program and work for a year. But furthermore, I think townships, as you grow across South Africa, have become places that are unsafe. Our citizens feel when they go to the police station, they don't meet someone on the other side who takes their case seriously, who doesn't want a bribe. And there are good men and women who are policemen, but we've got to do more. We've got to bring an honest and a professional police service so that more people are fighting crime, and we're at the forefront.
You are the leader and the face of the party. And you're talking to me now and telling me all these things. Many people say, well, makes sense. We agree, Mmusi, with you. But the problem is you are fronting for other people. This gets said repeatedly to you, as you know.
Yes.
How do you feel about it when people criticize you and say, you know, you actually the thinking of the stuff is done by other people who instruct you what to do? And therefore, on that basis, say, you know, we can't trust that you are actually the right person to be leading the organization.
But Tim, I think it's the most outrageous statement that I've ever heard. Outrageous. It harks back to our own past. I think we have a history upon which we were taught that it is improbable that black people can lead white people. We have a history that if you went to Standard Bank and you saw the CEO there, you could not believe that he could lead an entire organization because you would think, given our own history, he must just be a front. The struggle for black South Africans who take on contexts where they are dealing with diverse people is hard because in many ways we have a historical programming that tells people that actually where white people are, they must be in charge and black people must just be faces. And I think we've got to break that up. So when I hear such criticism, I become emboldened to say, how can I serve people more? Demonstrate the fact that don't insult black people by assuming we cannot think for ourselves. Recognize the fact that when we've come in, the organization is much more diverse. The DA today, 8 out of the 9 provincial leaders are in fact black South Africans. To suggest that suddenly there's more black South Africans who are coming into this organization who cannot think is the greatest offense we can say towards black people.
But now, one of the cases that is cited as an example is the Cape Town saga, the Patricia de Lille saga, if I may use that. She's now left the organization, and people say, you know, you were wavering, you were going all over the place and trying to deal with the matter because there were tensions within the organization that she should stay or she should go, and you could not make up your mind, and then you had to leave it to the other leaders of the party to determine the outcome of Patricia de Lille's situation, that you could not make up your mind.
No, not at all. And Bratim, again, I was given evidence. The evidence said to me that there were a number of contracts in Cape Town that were adjudicated badly, that the city itself has had to set back. I was given information that demonstrated the fact that here in certain appointments things were wrong. But I believe in the rule of law. I gave both sides to be able to respond, and on the balance of evidence we felt that a lot of things were wrong. Therefore we took a decision to say that we must follow due process and have the mayor of Cape Town be removed. It's not something, it tells you that in the DA, it doesn't matter who you are, what level you are, accountability applies to all citizens. Therefore, in this instance, as it happens, when you empower the organization operationally to say, take the appropriate actions as it is, you as the leader set that in place and allow the institutional capacity to work. If you wake up tomorrow morning and you are in a party where the leader can unilaterally either fire or hire somebody, that organization doesn't have the institutional framework to be able to sustain governance in South Africa.
Do you regret the fact that she left the organization, Patricia de Lille, that is, to go and form her own party? Because it might, you know, register as a setback of sorts in terms of support in the Western Cape for you.
I think more than anything, we held people to account. I don't regret the fact that we took action. Because if I didn't take action against her, tomorrow I could just as well be saying to Herman Mashaba, he must do the same, or to Stevens Mukhalapa in Tshwane, he must do the same. I don't want 9 years where the ANC watched Jacob Zuma do wrong things, and then they sat back and said, this is perfectly fine. It is not. We must hold public representative accountable. We must make sure people in executive office are held to account. And I think history will prove us right on this matter. We must move away from the ideals that simply say that we must stand in racial solidarity and not interrogate the issues. We must look at the issues and say, what has person X done and what has person Y done? Because once you interrogate that and not say, well, let me first ask what is the color of the person. Let me ask what have the person done? Should they be held accountable? And if Patricia de Lille or anybody was of any different race, I would have acted in the same manner because I would demand accountability from all public reps.
Now, the country finds itself in this situation. We've got rampant corruption. You know, the information is coming out, and losing a lot of money to that corruption, and as well as projects that are not delivered on time, high unemployment rate, the economy is not growing at all, and we've got high national debt. What kind of South Africa do you think will emerge, politically speaking, beyond the elections of May the 8th?
Firstly, I think we need a realigned political framework. We can't go to the polls to simply, and I know for many South Africans, go express our race. We must demand change. Because if we give people who have looted our country for 10 years, it's like saying, and then when we are finished, you must say the same person must now try and fix the same house. It doesn't work like that. We need change. Furthermore, what we need is we need reform. And the South Africa I envisage is to say, let's not be stuck up to the dogma that says we must hold on to SOEs. Actually, some SOEs need to be sold. Because frankly, we don't need SAA. Right now, this week in the budget, we've given 13 billion rands to SOEs, 23 billion rands to ESCOM, but 10 rand to social grant recipients. That to me demonstrates that our priorities are misguided. We need to be able to be selling some of those so that we can free up resources to deal with people.
But you know, unions are not going to agree with it.
Well, they have a constituency for which to speak for. If their only question is about whether we can preserve jobs, I'm saying to them, our plan of being able to diversify the energy sector and our plan of being able to make sure that not all SOEs face up to competition will save more jobs as we create new industries so that more workers can be absorbed into that. We carry on with the same dogma, we will end up with no jobs at all. The unemployment numbers are rising, and I want a South Africa where there's a job in every home that will ensure that ultimately our citizens are participants in the economy.
Let me ask something personal then. I mean, you've been in Parliament since 2014, and had attacks and exchanges with former President Jacob Zuma, and you're still continuing now. I mean, you are critical. That's your role as leader of the opposition to do that. How would you describe your relationship with former President Jacob Zuma as compared to your relationship with the current President, Cyril Ramaphosa?
Look, I had very little to do with former President Jacob Zuma, mainly because I think that he took his personal interests above those of the nation, and therefore I could not in any way work with that. With President Ramaphosa, we've only got one agreement. Mr. Ramaphosa, when you put the interests of South Africa, I will work with you. But the moment you put the interests of your own political party ahead of those of South Africa, I cannot be a part of that. I cannot advance another party's agenda. So we have a fairly respectful relationship. I've always treated every individual with respect but firmness. And ultimately, I am a proud patriot of this nation, and I want this country to work. And as President Ramaphosa knows very well, I am interested in doing his job, not because of anything else, but because I do want change in this country. I think it would be good for South Africa to have politics that are contested. And ultimately, we can do it we can do it in a respectful
manner. What would you regard as useful success for your organization in terms of the numbers as they are, right, in terms of support? What do you expect from the polls? I know you say you want to win the elections, but rather, let me phrase it this way. What would you regard as failure at the polls?
No, I don't focus on failure. I think you phrased it correctly. My interest is to increase our national percentage of the vote. I really do believe that we need to form governments in Gauteng, Northern Cape, and the increased retention in the Western Cape. And ultimately, if we can be able to force an agenda nationally that brings about change, I think that would be a good result.
But coalitions are difficult, as you've come to realize, I suppose.
It's the future of South Africa.
Yeah. You think it's possible that who would you work out a deal with, you think, between all the different parties? But let me mention EFF and ANC in particular.
Yeah. Look, I think what's important is that you must decide coalitions on the basis of two things. Firstly, what is the principle that you are trying to advance? I will work with anyone who says, I believe in non-racialism, I believe in a market-based economy, I believe in constitutionalism, I believe in the eradication of corruption, and we can build a capable state. If you agree with me on those things, then we can. So that's principle. The second is obviously making sure that you look after people's money and the right people. I will not coalesce with anyone who thinks we must coalesce on race or corruption. That can't work. Therefore, the question should not be who, which party, but it should be what. What is the plan?
You're facing a very important day today with the launch of your manifesto, and good luck to you. Thanks again for having joined us on the program.
Much appreciated.
And that's Mmusi Maimane. Wishing him good luck ahead of the manifesto launch this afternoon. After the break, we'll be turning our focus to the reports of Auditor General of South Africa. Don't go away.